Okay, my dear students, today you see the numerical problems of the same chapter, machine, that is chapter number 3. So these are the formula which will be used in this chapter to do numericals. So mechanical advantage formula of a machine will be load by effort, and for a lever mainly will be applying effort arm by the load arm. Velocity ratio will be equal to the number of pulleys in case of block and tacker system of pulleys, and the efficiency formula is MA by VR into 100%. So these are the normally 3 formulae or formulas on which the numericals are based. So now we are doing the numericals. Now students, we see the first problem of this chapter, that is calculate the mechanical advantage of a lever in which the effort arm is 60 centimeter and the load arm is 4 centimeter. So this is a direct one. We'll be using the formula mechanical advantage of a lever. Formula is effort arm by the load arm, effort arm by the load arm. Effort arm is given 60 centimeter and load arm is given 4. So answer is 15. Don't give any unit for it because mechanical advantage is a pure ratio of two similar quantities and has no unit. MA or VR and efficiency, none of them has unit. So don't give unit for MA, mechanical advantage. That's the answer. That was the first problem. Now the another problem is over here. They are saying a crowbar 2 meter long is pivoted about a point 10 centimeter from its tip. Calculate the mechanical advantage of the crowbar. Now, what is the least force which must be applied at the other end to displace a load of 100 kgf? Question says there is a crowbar of length 2 meters. So we will draw a diagram and to know what is the value of effort arm, what is the value of the load arm. So crowbar is something like this. Here will be fulcrum, here will keep the load and here will give the effort. The total length is 2 meter, and is pivoted about a point 10 centimeter from the tip. Means this distance is given 10 centimeter. That is, what is the remaining distance? The total length is 2 meter, that means 200 centimeter. That means this remaining length will be equal to 190 centimeter. 190 centimeter is the value of this length. Now let us find mechanical advantage at first. Mechanical advantage formula as I have written there, effort arm by the load arm, EA by LA. In short I am writing effort arm by the load arm, but exam time you should write full effort arm by the load arm. Please write full. Don't write in short form. Effort arm is how much? The distance of the effort from the fulcrum. Distance of the effort from the fulcrum is 190. We will write 190. And the distance of the load arm from the fulcrum is how much? 10. So mechanical advantage will be 19. Now that is the first part of the questions. Answer for the first part. Now question says what is the least force which can be used at the other end to lift a load of 100 kgf. Further we will be going by the formula of mechanical advantage. You can write MA equal to load by effort now. Mechanical advantage value we already found 19 is equal to load value is given 100 kgf and we have to find effort. So effort value will be 100 divided by 19. So we will divide and calculate the answer in decimal places. So answer will come after rounding off will come 5.26. Effort will have unit, load also will have unit. So let us write the unit of effort. The unit of effort will be same as the unit of the load. Load unit was kgf, so here also we will write kgf. This is the answer. So first we will find mechanical advantage and we will carry on with the formula of mechanical advantage. Mechanical advantage formula is load by effort, and the mechanical advantage value whatever we found we will be substituting that value and calculating the value of effort. So that is the answer for this question. So in case when the diagram is not given or effort arm and the load arm is not mentioned, we will draw the diagram and check how much is the effort arm and how much is the value of load arm, and accordingly we will proceed and calculate mechanical advantage. Now another question is A crowbar of length 120 centimeter has its fulcrum situated at a distance of 20 centimeter from the load. Calculate the mechanical advantage of the crowbar. That is the question. This is same as this one, so I will not do, just have a look at it. This is a crowbar, total length is 120 and the load is situated 20 centimeter from the fulcrum. From fulcrum this is 20. Entire thing is 120, then the remaining distance will come 100. So mechanical advantage will be equal to 100 by 20. The answer is coming 5. And after that, if they give the value of load, we can calculate effort, or if they give the value of effort, we can calculate load. So the problem is quite simple here in this chapter. Now, these are ICC questions they had asked in the past. There is another question, I will like to do that one. A fire tongs has its arm 20 centimeter long. It is used to lift a coal of weight 1.5 kgf by applying an effort at a distance 15 centimeter from the fulcrum. Find first part the mechanical advantage of fire tongs and second part the effort needed. So let us do this question. That is question number . These questions are available in the Concise Physics, so you can refer to those questions from the book as well. There is a fire tongs. Let us make a fire tongs like this. Fire tongs has its arm 20 centimeter long. The entire length of the arm is 20 centimeter. Fulcrum will be here. This entire thing is 20 centimeter long. And is used to lift a coal of weight 1.5. There is a piece of coal over here, maybe a coal we are picking up by this fire tongs. Weight of the coal is given 1.5 kgf. This coal will be the load. Load value is given 1.5 kgf. This is class 3 lever, so we have to give the effort somewhere in between fulcrum and the load and pick up the coal. Effort at a distance 15 centimeter from the fulcrum. We are giving the effort at a distance 15 centimeter from the fulcrum. From fulcrum, the effort distance is, this is the effort distance is 15 centimeter, like this. Let us find mechanical advantage first. First part we are doing. Mechanical advantage formula, as we know, effort arm by load arm. So effort arm is 15 and the load arm is 20. So 3 by 4 will give the answer in decimal place 0.75. So mechanical advantage is 0.75 of this fire tongs. Now further continuation, because load is given, we have to find effort value. So you can write below MA, you can write load by effort equal to this side value 0.75. Instead of writing this, we will write the value of fractional value 3 by 4 we will write. It will be easier to calculate. So load value is given 1.5 by effort is equal to 3 by 4. Therefore, effort value will come 1.5 into 4 by 3. The answer will come 2, but we will write the answer at 2.0 kgf. One decimal place we will write, because this was given 1.5, so we will be writing in one decimal place the answer like 2.0 kgf. So that is the answer for this question. Now next question we will do on pulley system. Problems are quite simple in this chapter. So now next problem on pulley system we are going to do. Question is, in a block and tackle system consisting of 3 pulleys, a load of 75 kgf is raised with an effort of 25 kgf. Find mechanical advantage, velocity ratio and efficiency. Load is given 75 and is lifted by an effort of 25 kgf, and the number of pulleys in that block and tackle systems are 3. First we will find mechanical advantage. Mechanical advantage formula is got load by effort. Load and effort both are given. We can easily calculate mechanical advantage. Mechanical advantage, load is given 75 kgf, effort is given 25, so mechanical advantage comes 3. It is the answer for the first part. Now the second part, three pulleys are there. They're asking find velocity ratio. We know velocity ratio is equal to number of pulleys. The number of pulleys are 3, so velocity ratio also comes 3. Third part, efficiency. Efficiency is denoted by the symbol eta. Formula is MA by VR. Normally efficiency we will find in terms of percentage, we will write into 100 percentage wise. That means 3 upon 3 into 100. The answer is 100%. When MA and VR is equal, so definitely the mechanical advantage will be 100%. The efficiency will be 100%. Sorry, efficiency. Now the next question on this pulley system is, now the next question says a block and tackle system has 5 pulleys. If an effort of 1000 Newton is needed to raise a load of 4500 Newton, calculate A, first part, mechanical advantage, B, velocity ratio, second part, and the third part, C, efficiency of the system. They have given effort 1000 Newton and load is given 4500 Newton, and this pulley block and tackle system has 5 pulleys. So first we will find mechanical advantage, first part. So MA will be equal to load by effort, because load and effort both are given. So load is given 4500 Newton, effort is given 1000. So answer is 4.5. Second part, velocity ratio. So velocity ratio is equal to the number of pulleys. So there are 5 pulleys, the question says. So 5. Third part of question says efficiency of the system. So efficiency formula we have MA by VR into 100 percentage wise. So MA is 4.5, velocity ratio is 5 into 100. So answer will come 90%. The efficiency of this pulley system is 90%. Now the next question on pulley system is over here. A pulley system has a velocity ratio 3 and an efficiency of 80%. Draw a level diagram of this pulley system. Calculate mechanical advantage of the system and the value of effort required to raise the load of 300 Newton. So first part of question says draw a diagram. There are velocity ratio 3. So velocity ratio 3, there will be 3 pulleys. That means 3 pulley system of, you know how to draw 2 blocks, upper block and the lower block. Keep 2 pulleys in the upper block, 1 pulley in the lower block, and connect, and the effort direction is in the downward direction will come definitely. Because the number of pulleys are 3, that means odd number of pulleys. There is only one possibility. If there are even number of pulleys such as a velocity ratio 4 or 6, then there are 2 possibilities. Effort direction can come in the downward direction or it can come in the even upward direction. In that case, there are 2 possibilities, but here there is only one possibility. So efficiency is already given 80%. So I will be using the efficiency formula. Efficiency formula we have MA by VR into percentage wise 100%. Efficiency is given 80%, right? 80. MA we have to find, velocity ratio is given 3. This is also percentage, this is also percentage, so percentage cancelling, so we are not showing percentage now here anymore. This and this will go, so mechanical advantage you calculate, it will come 8 into 3 upon 10, so 24 by 10, so answer is 2.4. This is answer of first part answer we are getting over here now, mechanical advantage comes here. Now the second part of question says, find the value of the effort to raise a load of 300 Newton using this block and tackle system. So mechanical advantage further will be continuing with this formula. MA is equal to load by effort, right below that, and the value of this is 2.4, let us write 2.4. Load is given 300 Newton. 300 Newton, we will be finding the value of effort 2.4. Therefore, effort value will come 300 divided by 2.4. So please calculate this. The answer will come 125. 125. Now effort and all will have units. Will give the unit of effort same as the unit of load. Load is given this time in terms of Newton. Here we will give the answer also in terms of Newton. The effort will be 125 Newton. So these are the types of numerical problems in this chapter. With this chapter is over. My dear students, so the next chapter will begin in the next day. So that will be the refraction. We will be starting with the lights now, optics. Refraction of light from next day onwards we will be starting. Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome back, children. So yesterday we had started with the short stories, and yesterday I had done the first short story, Old Man at the Bridge. Today we will move on to the second short story which is there in your syllabus, A Face in the Dark. You know that it's the shortest of the short stories in your syllabus. It's only of 2 pages. First of all, I will move on to the author of this short story. The author of this short story is Ruskin Bond. You know that from the British period towards the 1930s, a trend started in India where Indians started writing in English. And this trend was basically pioneered by R.K. Narayan, famous for his Malgudi days. The trend continued in the hands of writers like Raja Rao, Mulk Raj Anand, Ruskin Bond, Anita Desai, and so on and so forth. So these are the stalwarts of Indians writing in English. Ruskin Bond is still living. He lives in Mussoorie. He started his career as a writer at the age of 17 only, when he wrote this novel, A Room on the Roof. This was written when he was only 17 years old. He went on to write several novels and plenty of short stories. I would like to mention this novel of Ruskin Bond, The Flight of the Pigeons, because it was later made into a hit Hindi Bollywood movie, Junoon. Other than that, he wrote hundreds of short stories. His style is always very simple and lucid. His style is direct, easygoing. There is a direct narration in his story. The flow of the language is easy because the language is lucid and simple. The same style of lucidity and simplicity continues even in this short story, A Face in the Dark. The setting of this story. The setting of this story is in the hill station of Shimla. Remember, most of the stories and novels of Ruskin Bond, they are set either in Shimla or in Dehradun or in Mussoorie. Basically because he is from Mussoorie and Dehradun and presently lives in Mussoorie. Now, the central character in this story is an Anglo-Indian teacher, Mr. Oliver. Mr. Oliver was an Anglo-Indian teacher and he was a bachelor. Just imagine, Mr. Oliver was an Anglo-Indian teacher of a school in Shimla. But the school was not located in the town of Shimla. The school was located on the outskirts of Shimla, just outside the town of Shimla, about 3 miles away from the Shimla Bazaar. This school, in those days, was a very famous school. The students wore uniforms, caps, ties, something which was very, very rare in India during the British period. So good was this school that Life magazine, one of the most famous magazines of England, had called this school the Eton of the East. Now, why so? Let me tell you, this Eton school or college was founded by the British monarch Henry VI in 1440, almost 600 years back. This is the most prestigious public school or college in England. This school in Shimla followed what was practiced in the original Eton school or college in England. That is why Life magazine called it the Eton of the East. Mr. Oliver was a teacher of such a reputed school in Shimla. Now, since Mr. Oliver was a bachelor, he had a daily habit. His habit was, in the evening, he used to walk from the school and come to the Shimla Bazaar. From there, he used to return to the school during the evening. But when he would return back to his school, he would not walk along the main road. He would rather take a shortcut through the pine forest. This was his daily habit. This shortcut obviously was through a forest. It was quite lonely, desolate, isolated, and therefore it was not everybody's cup of tea to walk through this forest in the evening. But the point is, Mr. Oliver was not a cowardly person. He was not nervous. He was not an imaginative person. He had courage. And that is why he could walk through that forest, pine forest, in the evening without any hesitation. Now, when this story is taking place, on that day also, Mr. Oliver, as was his habit, was walking back through this pine forest alone with a torch. But the problem with the torch was the batteries were running out and the glow or the brightness of the torch was not very much. As he was walking through the forest, he heard a sound of weeping or crying and saw a boy seated on a rock inside the forest with his head down and weeping soundlessly. At first, Mr. Oliver was angry and irritated because the students were not allowed to go outside the school premises after dark. Then what was this fellow doing out here in the pine forest in this evening? So obviously, Mr. Oliver, who was a dutiful teacher, a responsible person, he tried to go near that boy seated on the rock and weeping to know what the matter was. Not only that, he wanted to scold the child that why are you out of the school compound at this time of the evening? Obviously, when he asked this question to this boy, the boy did not give any answer. With his head bowed, with his face covered with his hands, the boy went on weeping and crying silently. Now, Mr. Oliver was no longer angry or irritated. His anger and irritation changed to concern and worry. He was concerned about the boy. He was worried about the boy. So he asked the boy that, look here, you are not supposed to be here at this time. But will you please tell me what is the matter? What is it that is troubling you? Why are you crying? And most importantly, look up, look into my eyes and speak out. Now, the strangest thing happened in the story. The boy looked up towards Mr. Oliver. And when the boy looked up, Mr. Oliver saw that the boy did not have a face. Basically, what looked up was like a plain football with no eyes, no ears, no nose, mouth, nothing. In fact, the face had no features of a face. Obviously, when Mr. Oliver saw this strange, unbelievable, and frightening sight, he was scared. Now, I told you, he was not nervous, he was not imaginative, he was not a coward, and yet he was frightened. The simple reason is the loneliness of the place, the isolation of the place, the desolation of the place, the darkness of the forest had a psychological effect on Mr. Oliver, and he got frightened. So the torch dropped from his hand and he started running blindly towards the school. As he was running, he met the watchman. The watchman was carrying a lantern. Mr. Oliver stopped in front of this watchman carrying the lantern. The watchman asked Mr. Oliver, remember, he was an Anglo-Indian, so the watchman showed respect and said, "What is the matter, Sahib? Has there been any accident? Why are you running and why are you so scared and frightened?" When this watchman came closer to Mr. Oliver, and when Mr. Oliver looked at the face of the watchman, he saw that the watchman's face was also like that of that student. In fact, it was faceless. Even the watchman's face had no eyes, ears, nose, mouth. The watchman also had no features. Obviously, what happened now? You can imagine that it was an extremely frightening situation for Mr. Oliver. And the strangest thing was, just then a wind blew and the lantern extinguished and everything became completely dark. That is where the story comes to an end. That is why I have written something there which I will discuss. First, let us see what atmosphere is created in the story. Remember, this story has an element of supernaturalism. You can imagine that Mr. Oliver had seen ghosts. Therefore, the atmosphere, the ambience in the story had to be suitable and similar to what was happening. That is why you see it was dark in the evening. It was a lonely, desolate pine forest. The atmosphere was strange, weird, eerie, isolated, and the story is filled with suspense because we have a feeling that something is going to happen. It's filled with mystery because we don't know what those faceless creatures were. You have an element of foreboding. As you read, you expect that something more scary, more frightening is about to happen. And there is an element of supernaturalism because both of them were faceless. Now, the question is, here the story comes to an end. As I told you, the story has a sudden ending with no proper conclusion. That is why I have written, the story suddenly comes to an end. We do not know what happened to Mr. Oliver. That is the most important point. If in ICSE you are asked, do you agree with the ending of the story? You will write, no. You don't agree or you don't like the ending of the story because we do not know that after the lantern extinguished, what actually happened to Mr. Oliver. Did he survive? Did he faint? Did he die? Was he able to run away to the safety of his school compound? Everything is left open. Nothing is stated by the author. That is why Mr. Oliver, what could have happened to him? He might have fainted. He might have died. He might have been able to run away. What actually happened, we do not know. And therefore, since there is no definitive conclusion, you will say or you will write in your ICSE that you don't like or you don't agree to the ending of the story. Now see, such stories where the author doesn't conclude the story properly, we do not know what happened after. These stories are called open-ended stories. Open-ended because what might happen after the incident or incidents is subject to various interpretation. Meaning, as a reader, you can draw your own conclusions. You can imagine that Mr. Oliver fainted. You can imagine he died of a heart attack. You might imagine that he was able to save himself. You might imagine that he was able to run away. He entered the school compound and felt that he was safe. After all, remember, he was not a very cowardly person. He was not a nervous fellow. So, it is subject to interpretation. You can conclude what happened next the way you want. That is why the story is considered to be open-ended. Now the point is, how do you critically analyze the story? You can look at it in two ways. If you believe in the incidents that take place in the story, if you think that Mr. Oliver actually saw a student with no face, he actually saw a watchman with no face, then you can say it's a simple ghost story dealing with supernaturalism, dealing with mystery. It can happen. It might happen because there are hundreds and thousands of ghost stories all over the world written century after century. So you can look at the story in that way also. You can say it's a ghost story. Whatever happened in the story, all the incidents were true, and therefore you will conclude that Mr. Oliver actually saw something which was unearthly, unbelievable, strange, mysterious, frightening, ghastly. Or you can look at the ending and the story in a different context. If you think that the author is trying to present to us something which is open-ended, then we can conclude the way we want. And I can conclude that actually nothing had happened. There were no ghosts. the student and the watchman together had played a prank on Mr. Oliver to frighten him. It was just a practical joke to frighten him because everybody knew about his daily habit. He used to take the shortcut through that dark, lonely pine forest every day in the evening. So, a prank could have been easily planned out from before to test how brave, courageous Mr. Oliver was, or how nervous and cowardly he was. So, if you want, you can also say that it might have been a prank or a practical joke which was played by the student and the watchman together on Mr. Oliver, and there was nothing supernatural or mysterious about what had happened. That way, the entire story becomes humorous rather than scary and frightening. I'm telling you, that is why I have said this story is open-ended. It is up to you to conclude the way you want. You can call it a ghost story. You can call it a humorous story with a prank played on Mr. Oliver. And the last thing I would like to come to is the title of the story. A Face in the Dark. How many faces did Mr. Oliver see? Actually, two. The face of the student, the face of the watchman. Yet, in the title, it is written a face, meaning singular, one. Yet he had seen two faces. Then why does the author use a face in the dark, singular? The simple reason is both the faces were similar. Both no features, no eyes, ears, nose, or mouth. There were two faces seen, but the faces were the same or similar, featureless, faceless. So they have been presented as one face, a face, because both were the same, featureless. And obviously, the dark in the title refers to the darkness of the evening in the pine forest. So that is the story of Face in the Dark. It has a sudden ending. It has an open-ended conclusion. It is left to the interpretation of the readers as to how they think the story is. They might believe that it is a ghost story, or they might imagine it's actually a humorous story of a practical joke or a prank played on Mr. Oliver. Thank you.
Hello my dear students, welcome back to the third episode of ICSE Mathematics 2021. So as you all know, if you are following, we were doing coordinate geometry. I had completed in the two classes, I had completed first chapter on coordinate geometry, that is related to section, midpoint and centroid of a triangle. Now today we are going to start off with a very important, a bit difficult chapter on coordinate geometry. So as you can see, the name of the chapter is equation of a straight line. So this chapter is very important because this chapter gets continued in class 11 and class 12 in coordinate geometry. So the basics is very important for you all. So we are going to start off with equation of a straight line. So a general equation of a straight line. So today I am just going to explain the theory part of equation of a straight line, the formulas, the concepts and various important notes. So the general equation of a straight line is written as ax plus by plus c equal to 0. So this is the general equation of a straight line. So an equation of a straight line will be of this form, where where capital A and capital B not equal to 0. That means the coefficient of x and coefficient of y can't be equal to 0. It can be any constants. So just replace the value of a, b, c by different constants, you get different equation of straight lines. Is that okay? So this is called your general equation. General equation. Now let us come to the equation of a straight line in different forms. The first form is called slope intercept form. So slope intercept form, from the name itself, if you want to write down the equation of a straight line, then you need to know the slope and the intercept. So the slope intercept form is y equal to mx plus c. So this is called your slope intercept form, where m is called the slope and m is called the slope. I'll explain the definition of slope later on. M equal to slope and c equal to the y-intercept. C is the y-intercept. So I can just explain this by drawing a figure. This is your y-axis and this is your x-axis. Suppose this is the equation of a line. The equation of a line, the slope of this line is m, and the y-intercept means the point where the line cuts the y-axis from the origin. Let us say if it's c, then the equation of this particular line which you see is going to be y equal to mx plus c. So once again, in order to write the equation of a straight line in this form, you need to know the slope and the intercept. Intercept means, y-intercept means the point where the line cuts the y-axis. Now the second one is called point slope form, and this is the most important form. We will be using this form frequently. It is called point slope form. Point slope form. As you can see from the name itself, you need a point, let us say a point x1 and y1, and you need to know the slope. Suppose there is a line, we know a particular point on it, x1 and y1, and if we know the slope of this line, then the equation of this particular line which you see can be written in the form y minus y1 equal to m times x minus x1. So this is called point slope form, and we are going to use this frequently. So once again, when are you going to use this to find the equation of a line? When we know a point and the slope of a line. Now finding the slope, I'm going to do it later once I complete the 4 forms of equation of a straight line. So this is the second form. Now the third form is called 2-point form. 2-point form. Given a line, if I know 2 points, let us say A, x1, y1 and B, x2, y2, then I can write down the equation of this line using the formula y minus y1 equal to y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1 into x minus x1. So this is called 2-point form. So you are going to use this to write down the equation of a straight line if 2 points are known. So once again, let me revise the different forms of writing an equation of a straight line. So as you can see, a general equation of a straight line will be of the form ax plus by plus c equal to 0. That means there will be a term containing x, there will be a term containing y and a constant. So but please remember, the value of a and b cannot be 0. If the value of a is 0, then 0 into x is 0, so the term containing x vanishes. So that is not an equation of a straight line. So equation of a straight line must contain 2 variables, one is x and one is y, both linear. Linear means the power of x and y must be 1. So moving on, I have explained 3 forms to write the equation of a straight line. So when are you going to use form number 1? If I know the slope of the line and the intercept. So the formula is y equal to mx plus c. So you know in an equation x and y has to be there. What is unknown? M and c. The second one is point slope form. That means I need to know one point and a slope. So y minus y1 equal to m times x minus x1. Again, x and y will always be there in an equation. x1 and y1 is a point that we know, and m is the slope. And the third part, 2-point form. If you know 2 points, like in this case, y will be there, x will be there in an equation, x1 and y1 are known to you, x2 and y2 is also known to you. So in this case we use 2-point form. Now we got one last form, that is called intercept form. That is called, fourth one is called intercept form. Intercept form. Intercept form says, given a coordinate axis, this is your x, this is your y. Suppose a line cuts the x axis and y axis at a particular point, then this distance is called your x intercept. Let me denote it by a, x intercept, and this distance where the line cuts the y axis is called your y intercept. Let me denote this by b. So if you know the x intercept and the y intercept, then the equation of the straight line will be x divided by a plus y divided by b equal to 1. So this is the fourth form. So x divided by a plus y divided by b equal to 1. So students, let me make this clear. The question will be to find the equation of a straight line. So in order to find the equation of a straight line, what you need to understand is, out of the 4 forms you are going to use 1 form, and that totally depends on what is known according to the question. Like for example, I've already revised it. I'm going to emphasize on that because most of the students tend to get confused which formula to use when. So the first formula, from the name itself, slope intercept. That means if you know the slope and the intercept, then we use it. What is it? Y equal to mx plus c. The second form, the most frequently used, it's called point and slope. So a point is known and a slope is known. So what's the formula? Y minus y1 equal to m open bracket x minus x1. The third form, 2 points must be known. So if 2 points are known, what is the formula? Y minus y1 equal to y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1 open bracket x minus x1. And the fourth form is intercept form. If a line segment cuts the x axis and a y axis at the point a and b, at a distance of a and b, then the equation of the straight line is going to be x by a plus y by b equal to 1. So once this is clear, now let us come back to the most important aspect of writing down the equation. Now you cannot expect a question to be very easy where you just have to substitute the value. Like for example, find the equation of a straight line passing through a point 2, 3 and slope equal to 2. So in that case we just need to substitute, isn't it? So the question is not going to be that easy. So every time you have to find the equation of a straight line, you will come across one problem, and that is finding the slope. So I'm going to teach you how to find the slope, and that slope, after we find out the slope, we are going to substitute that value and write down the equation. For example, like if I have to use the point slope form. So if you have to use point slope form, only the point will be given, so slope we have to find. So I'm going to teach you how to find the slope. So to find the slope of a line, so case 1, if an angle is given, if an angle is given, then the formula for the slope, that is represented by m, slope m equal to tan theta. So suppose a line segment makes an angle 45 degree with the positive direction of x axis, then the slope of this line is going to be tan theta. So m equal to tan 45. So m equal to tan 45 is 1. So the slope of this line is 1. Once again, what is the definition of a slope? Slope is the tan of the angle which the line makes with the positive direction of x-axis. So in this case it's 45, so tan 45 equal to 1. So the slope of this line is 1. So the first case, when an angle is given, slope equal to m equal to tan theta. So when an angle is given. Case 2, if 2 points are given, let us say A x1 y1 and B x2 y2, then the slope of AB will be y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So this is how you find the slope of a line when 2 points are given. So this is how you find out the slope. And case 3, if an equation of a line is given, then what do we do to find the slope? We rewrite the equation as y equal to mx plus c such that m is the slope. So I'll just give you an example. Suppose, I have to find the slope of 2x plus 3y minus 7 equal to 0. So this is an equation of a line and I need to find the slope of this line. So what do? I simply rewrite this as y equal to mx plus c. So 3y as it is, minus 2x, minus 7 goes that side, becomes plus 7. So y equal to minus 2x plus 7 divided by 3. Divide everything by 3 because this is the common LCM. 2 by 3x plus 7 by 3. Therefore, what is the slope of this line? It's minus 2 by 3. So these are the 3 cases which will help you find out the slope of a straight line. So I hope you are being able to relate what we are trying to do. Once again, those who did not understand, I'm going to explain actually what this really means. There are 4 cases which I have already given. So the question will be basically to find the equation of a straight line. So in order to find the straight line, there are certain needs. And the most important thing is to find the slope. So they are not going to give you the value of the slope directly. We ourselves have to find the slope, and then once you know the slope, if the point is known, I can easily use point slope form. Once the slope is known and if I know the intercept, I can use the slope intercept form. So I hope you are understanding. So that is why finding the slope is very important for you all. So once again, just have a look. If an angle is given, then slope equal to tan theta. If someone asks you what's the definition of a slope, then what is going to be your definition? Slope is tan of the angle which the line makes with the positive direction of x-axis. So m equal to tan theta. I have given an example. Suppose the line cuts the x-axis, it makes an angle 45, then m equal to tan theta, so tan 45 equal to 1. So the value of m is 1. So that's the value of the slope. Next, if 2 points are given, what do? Then A and B is known, then the slope of AB will be y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. You will easily find out the slope of AB. And the third case, if an equation of a line is given, then what do? We simply rewrite it as y equal to mx plus c such that m equal to slope. So you are going to rewrite it as y equal to mx plus c such that m equal to the slope. So I have given you an example, slope of 2x plus 3y minus 7 equal to 0. So I made y the subject, so 3y equal to minus positive 2x goes that side, becomes minus 2x, negative 7 goes that side, becomes plus 7. So when you divide everything by 3, the slope comes to be minus 2 by 3. So I hope till here it's clear. Now the last part of this particular chapter is the relation between parallelism and perpendicular. So what is the relation when two lines are parallel and two lines are perpendicular? So if the third one, if two lines L1 and L2 are parallel, then what is the relation between their slopes? L1 and L2, So the relation is, if L1, this is the notation of parallel, you can write this. If L1 is parallel to L2, then the slopes are equal. The slopes are equal. So L1, the slope of L1 is M1, L2, the slope of L2 is M2. So therefore, what can I say? M1 equal to M2. M1 equal to M2. So you might be wondering, how does this help? So I'll just give you an example. Before I do the problem, I'll just explain, because the concept is very important for equation of a straight line. Suppose, I'm not going to solve it, but I'm just going to explain how this question is to be done. Suppose, let's say, this is L1, I know a point on it 2, 3. And the question is, I need to find the equation of this line. So a point is known. So remember the second form, point slope. That means I need to find the slope. If I know the slope, then I can easily write down the equation of L1. So in order to find the slope, the three cases, so suppose there's an extra condition that is given. The condition is, if L1 is parallel to L2 and the equation of L2 is given. So let us say the equation, or rather the slope of L2 is given. Let us say slope of L2 is 3. So since L1 is parallel to L2, then the slopes will be equal. Yes or no? So if M equal to 3, if M2 equal to 3, then M1 will also be equal to 3. So can't I write down the equation of L1 now? Because I know the point as well as the slope. So that is how you are going to connect the given conditions. So this is the condition: if two lines L1 and L2 are parallel, then the slopes are equal. The second one, if two lines L1 and L2 are perpendicular, that means this is L1 and this is L2. So this is M1 and this is M2. If L1, this is the symbol of perpendicular, L1 is perpendicular to L2, then the product of the slopes is equal to -1. Then the product of the slopes is equal to -1. So M1 into M2 equal to -1. M1 into M2 equal to -1, or in other words, M1 equal to -1 by M2. M1 equal to -1 by M2. So what it means is, suppose this is L1 and this is L2. If the slope of L1 is if it's 2, then the slope of L2 will also be 2. But if it's perpendicular, then if the slope of L1 is 2, then the slope of L2 will be reciprocal with a minus sign. So what's the reciprocal of 2? It's going to be 1 by 2 with a negative sign. So I hope this is clear. So let us just revise what we have learned till now. Equation of a straight line. So what is the general equation of a straight line? It is ax plus by plus c equal to 0. Means two linear variables x and y. A cannot be 0, b cannot be 0. That means any equation in which you see x and y with the power 1, then that is equation of a straight line. So what are the formulas to calculate? What are the formulas to find out the equation of a straight line? Number 1, slope intercept y equal to mx plus c. Mx plus c, that means the slope you can see is m and the intercept out here is c. So we need two things to write down the first formula. The second one is point slope, y minus y1 equal to m x minus x1. Again out here you see the slope, and y, the points x1 and y1. So in all these equations x and y will always be there. And the third one, 2-point form, y minus y1 equal to y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1 open bracket x minus x1. So in this case 2 points must be known to use the third formula, and the fourth formula, x by a plus y by b equal to 1. So depending on the situation you have to use these four formulas to write down the equation of a straight line. So as I've already told you, for your class 10, most of the 99% of the questions you will be using point, slope, and 2-point form. So once again let me emphasize on this part that direct substitution will not be there. Direct substitution means you will not be, you don't just have to put the value, you have to find the value first. Like if you have to use this, what is it that you need to find? The slope and the point. So you either have to find, both will not be given, you either have to find the slope or you have to find the point. Is that okay? Now next, to find the slope, I taught you 3 cases. If an angle is given, then slope equal to tan theta. If 2 points are given, then slope equal to y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. If an equation is given, then you have to rewrite the equation as y equal to mx plus c such that m equal to the slope. So this is how you find the slope. The slope which is found out here, you are going to put it in this equation and get the required equation. So this is how you find the slope. And what was the relation between the slopes? What is the relation between the slopes? If two lines are parallel, L1 and L2, then the slopes m1 equal to m2. If two lines L1 and L2 are perpendicular, then m1 into m2 equal to -1. So if you remember these concepts which I have given it to you, then solving questions on equation of straight line will not be a problem. So what I want you all to do is, please study the formulas properly, and because this chapter is a bit difficult, the reason why is you need to use your brain, you need to understand in a particular equation which formula will be applicable. So the application of the formula totally depends on the given condition. If the slope and intercept is given, slope and point is given, formula number 2. If 2 points are given, formula number 3. If intercept is given, formula number 4. And if slope and intercept is given, then formula number 1. And this is how you find out the slopes. I hope you understood today's episode. So thank you so much.